Salutations everyone, this is Razor bringing you guys another Overwatch 2 video where today I'm going to be talking about the most consistent tank in Overwatch 2. The tank you should be using most of the time, matchup map depending of course, but it's Sigma. It's straight up Sigma. The power that he has, the damage mitigation, remember he has 2 damage mitigation tools, no other tank can say that unless you count both Zarya bubbles as 2 separate entities, which you shouldn't, it's the same power. He also deals out more damage than any of the other tanks, barring, you know, your Reinhardt getting speed boosted in and you're just able to swing and hit everything. He's going to do the most consistent damage and the most consistent mitigation. And look how far we have already pushed them. I'm throwing out my shield. I'm throwing out my balls of fury, and we have pushed them already up the hill, and this is still the first fight, right? I should have popped my ult there. We would have gotten the quad and the team kill here, and as you can see, we're just barely gonna miss the checkpoint here on the very first push. But everyone's talking about how strong D.Va is, right? Even though we saw you know, with Aaron Keller in the first update, that her win percentage wasn't even in the top 4. In fact, Sigma was ahead of her in non-mirrored matchups, right? But people were complaining how strong she is, as well as Zarya. But Sigma is an incredible answer against D.Va. You take a look at the length of this video, right? It's about 12 minutes long. Guess right now how many times I accretion this D.Va. And she doesn't switch off. She stays D.Va the entire match, attack and defense. I accretion this D.Va 19 times because she's an easy target. She's a big target. There's not a ton of verticality for her to move on here. I don't go for her absolutely every time, but the majority of the time she's going to be the right target to go for. She's big, and defense metrics does not stop a big old boulder barreling down into her joysticks, right? I think I missed her like 4 times, twice to an inaccuracy, and twice because you know, one of her teammates saved her, once with an ice wall and once with an invulnerability from Kiriko. But as you can see, Sigma's ability to create space, deal damage and mitigate damage, and stay alive, right? Remember, you gain more shields, the more damage you suck up with his ability, to where he has a sustain that can absolutely rival Zarya's. Or a Reinhardt getting pocketed, you know, if you're getting any sort of heals and you're not getting rushed. Sigma does have weaknesses, right? A good dive does shut down a Sigma. A Winston jumping your back line, there's not a lot you can do. You could try to rock him out of the air, but usually they'll have, you know, a decent use of their shields to where it'll protect themselves as they are falling, right? So he's not going to be perfect everywhere, but I feel like he is the best tank the majority of the time, especially on your push game modes and your escorts and your hybrids. He is fantastic, and he's a really great answer against a lot of the annoying things in this game. Like, for some people, they're like, man, D.Va, her ability to just rush down and kill a squishy or whatever, or the defense matrix that lasts so long, blah, 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 D.Va bomb, really strong. Sigma can deal with all of that. He has a barrier to stop the D.Va bomb as long as it's up, right? It's not going to be as up as much as Reinhardt's. As you can see, I don't have it up there. So yeah, she gets a kill. It's just me. I'm out of position. She finds, you know, but that's just 1 kill. I don't think she gets, I think she gets only 1 other kill off of her ultimate for this game. Or at the very least, I only died to it 1 more time. But the rock keeps her at bay because she cannot stop it, and she's a big target. There's almost no reason to miss your accretion rock on a big target like D.Va, right? And if you're going up against a squishy, you know, we, again, like when Sigma first came out, we can accretion primary, a squishy target, and kill them. Not your Maze and your Reapers, because they're like 250 HP, right? But he also has a strong ultimate. It can get counterplayed, you know, a beat drop or a transcendence will most likely stop it, but for the most part, you are going to get value out of it, whereas a D.Va bomb is more easily played around, and, you know, a shatter is less contested now in Overwatch 2 because of the lack of barriers, but the Terra Surge from Orisa is just like super useless, and Doomfist ult is just it's a joke. It needs to be reworked. For a tank ultimate, it needs to be stronger, especially with the rest of his kit being so weak. But as you can see, Sigma's ability to create space, push, and do a ton of damage, no other tank has that package, right? D.Va has only her defense matrix to protect herself and her team, whereas Sigma has 2 damage mitigators. He doesn't have the mobility is the only thing that is missing. He has the barrier, he has the CC with the rock, and he has a ton of damage. He can ricochet off of corners. I blocked the D.Va bomb there, but I get killed by the artillery from the Bastion, which is also a character that everyone's saying a lot of ever since he was re-added to the game, like he's a brand new character and people are just trying him out. And for all the new players, that is how it is for them. It is a new character to them, and they are trying him out. And we know how powerful Bastion can be. No matter what build of Overwatch 1 or Overwatch 2 you're playing, you can get big value out of Bastion, and he can be quite annoying. But Sigma has 2 ways of mitigating his damage. He has the rock to mitigate the amount of damage he can do in his turret form, because that is a timed thing, and he is very vulnerable, can no longer self-heal. So if he's not getting like hard double pocketed, if you hit an accretion while he's in his most dangerous, you are going to win that fight, because you're knocking him down, you're burning time off his clock, you're damaging him, and you have your barrier as well as your absorption to stop him from doing damage against you. And if he's doing it up against your absorption, you are getting enough barriers to sustain through the rest of that damage, even if he hits all the rest of his shots while he's in his tank form. So he's a great answer against Bastion as well. He's also fairly good against poke comps, and like I said, his ultimate pretty damn good. A 1, a 2, the 3, that's a 4, and oh yes, D.Va, you're not getting away. That is a 5-man. We play billiards in this house. We know how to hit angles. We can ricochet things, and that's a team kill. As we get to the final push, which, team kill's not the greatest thing at times, because you get the you don't have the stagger, so they all come back as one full force. So they do get one last push opportunity here as we are heading down to the final 20 seconds. But I died to the D.Va bomb for the second time. But like D.Va was in Overwatch 1, she was a great anti-carry player. Character, and that she could stop a lot of the carry DPSs. She could interrupt soldiers on high ground, your flanking McCrees, your Reapers jumping in on your back line. She was, or Pharahs flying into the air. She was great at stopping someone else from carrying. Sigma is now that role, because he basically has her defense matrix, just with not as big of a range, and he also has a barrier. He doesn't have the mobility. He's got, arguably a better ultimate, and he also has a very easy to hit CC that now does more damage than it did in Overwatch 1. So he's not going to be the best everywhere. Like I said, if you go up against a good dive, a Winston, or you're getting Sombra hacked, he can be vulnerable, right? No tanks are perfect in Overwatch 2, which is absolutely great. We're not in a Junker Queen meta right now where there's one tank that's just always going to be the best, right? We never want to have that. That was the number one fear when we all heard that it was going to go to a 5v5 solo tank. It's like, well, if there's one tank that's better than the rest, it kind of makes the game crappier. But it's not the case that we have as of right now in Overwatch 2. We will get a new tank, most likely Mauga, in the next season. So yes, that could change things up, and what tank is good where, and obviously the tank matchup is the most important thing. This D.Va was literally getting rocked, and she did not make the adjustments. She didn't adjust her play. She didn't try diving at my backline, try to take height when it was possible for her, and she didn't switch off to mitigate the amount of dominance that I was enforcing upon her by accreting her. Again, 19 times in 12 minutes, and she wasn't, the only target I went after. Bastion is also a big easy target, and any squishy that does not have an escape. So Sigma is great against D.Va. He's not amazing against Zarya because she does have the double bubble. But if you aren't on control or something that's really close quarters, he's still going to have the advantage because he can protect his team a bit more. So if your supports and your damages are kind of on par with each other, you can still outplay a team with Zarya with Sigma because you have a kit that can provide more for your team. Especially if things are slowed. If things are slowed down, either you're poking at range, Sigma is going to have a much bigger advantage, I would say, against any other tank. Because, you know, while Reinhardt is a much more defensive character and really strong close quarters, he doesn't have the poke. Even if his shield is better, you're going to be able to poke down that shield with you know, even D.Va or maybe even Junker Queen in some circumstances, if played right. But Sigma is he provides the most utility for you because he can mitigate more damage than any of the other tanks where he is good, and he can do more damage than any other tanks in a matchup where he's good, where the tank matchup makes sense and on a map that makes sense. Sombra tried her darndest. She did help fight against me, but that really was not a problem here on our defense. As you can see with the video winding down, we do end up getting a full hold here. They do not get the first checkpoints because they couldn't keep me in check. There's so much in this game that has to deal with the tank matchups, how important the tanks interact with one another. And when it comes to Sigma, he really only has one bad matchup right now, and that is against Winston, which you're not going to be able to. You're not going to see that matchup fairly often at your Diamond and Belows. Not many people are going to be playing Winston. Not many people played Winston at those lower levels in Overwatch 1, so you're not going to see it in Overwatch 2. It's hard. You need coordination. You need support. And even where Rein is good and makes sense, or Orisa. Orisa is easily destroyed again by a Sigma. So if you have a problem against Orisa, Sigma has a barrier. He mitigates a lot more damage. Sure, he can get javelined. He can get hooked. I mean, everybody can get javelined and hooked. But Sigma can deal with those things. He can play around them and deal a ton of damage and has a good ultimate. So sorry, I don't have any final stats for you here. This was recorded on my PC. So I don't have all the stats. This was a replay footage, as you might have been able to tell. But trust me, Sigma is the tank you want to be playing the majority of the time right now because he answers so many things and so few players are trying to clap back against him.